Well, hey there, it's Brent Adams with Rural Strong Live. I hope you're having a great day here. We're having a great day. We're getting ready to talk a little professional breakaway roping, some podcasting, some rodeo, and anything else that might come our way. And it's my honor to welcome in Jordan Joe Hollabaugh, who is a professional breakaway roper, a marketer, a podcaster, a broadcaster. Really, nothing she can't do here. We're going to be featuring some of her content on Rural Strong Radio coming up in the new year. So we wanted to get her on the live stream to introduce you to her and help you understand a little bit about what she does. And Jordan Joe, welcome into the show.
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
We are merging all things agriculture and rodeo, and so it's been pretty fun journey.
absolutely. So many great ties, and you're fresh off coming out to the NFR out there in Las Vegas, and you see a lot of great ag ties between ag and rodeo out there.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've come to learn. We wouldn't be anywhere without agriculture as far as rodeo goes, but then, agriculture is not necessarily always tied to rodeo. And so my family grew up in agriculture, farming and those things, and then rodeo was our outlet. And so it's pretty neat to see all those come together and just get to celebrate and the fans that come out and all the things and just kind of how it all ties together. It's pretty fun.
So before we get into talking about all the cool stuff that you do, you mentioned that ag background. Talk us through growing up there in Texas.
So I grew up actually in Colorado and I moved to Texas,
Okay.
mainly because a lot of the events that I compete in and everything are in Texas. And so I grew up in Colorado, Pueblo, which is a very farm agricultural town. And I went to school at Pueblo County High School on the Mesa. I was a Mesa kid. And, it was just a normal thing that you went to school and you came home and you worked on the farm and or we rode horses and things like that. And so my dad and mom actually had a 40 acre piece of land and they did alfalfa on there. And so I got the blessing of hauling hay every year, 4 times a year. And, I tell you what, my sister usually ended up driving the truck, and my dad had actually built a barn that was just 2 feet short of allowing a hay hauler to get in there and dump the hay in there. So we got to haul it by hand. But I tell you what, it really refined me and built up a lot of character. And we were dang sure tough girls for sure. My sister usually would drive and or help haul hay. My dad would be on the trailer stacking it, and I would be up there throwing it. And I don't know how many times I've rolled my ankles in the rows and and all the things, but I was strong and resilient, and I think it built up a lot of things in my childhood that have carried over into my professional career, and so for that, I'm thankful. But yeah, we hauled hay year round, and shoot, it wasn't nothing to haul 800 bales at one cutting. And one of my fondest memories there is my dad. He was like feeling sorry for us girls. My mom was obviously out there too. It was the four of us. We were just a family show. And he's like, I'm going to hire some of your high school friends that are football players. I'm like, okay, perfect. And so I think one of them lasted maybe an hour. And then the other one rolled his ankle. And then the other one, he just quit on the job. There was three of them. And so I was like, at that point, I'm like, hey, I'm stronger than the boys. So anyway, it was fun growing up and we were pretty blessed and pretty fortunate. But that was I didn't get the whole experience of all the things farming. We just did alfalfa and we mainly did that for our horses and we fed that hay to our horses and our cattle. But yeah, we had setting a lot of water and running tubes and hauling hay and baling hay and all the things. So it was pretty fun.
Great memories of finding dust in places you didn't even know could get dust.
Yeah.
Man, yep,
Yeah. Lots of sneezing.
had those summers too. Great stuff there. So, when did you fall in love with rodeo?
My family, they grew up in rodeo. They came with it. My dad competed in rodeos in Colorado. He grew up there. My mom competed in rodeos in Missouri. Her dad did. So it's been a generational thing, and so I just kind of grew up not knowing any different. I used to have a little pony called Roni I rode when I was 4 years old, and I think she shook me off a time or two, but, we were just always on the back of a horse or outside, and, it was what we did, and, it was kinda what I looked forward to every day. I went to school, and I came home, and I went outside and got on my horses, and so, it's been from a young age, and we were involved in junior rodeos, high school rodeo. We did a lot of team ropings and events like that, and then through college, and then kind of came up and there was some professional ranks that opened up for breakaway roping, and so that's just kind of how it all happened.
Well, you were good enough that you competed in the world junior roping team and won the world title in the 14 and under division. Uh, Walk us through what it took to get there.
So that was a really cool title. I think I'm the only girl still to this day that has won that title. Team roping, I say back then, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but when I was 14, it was about 20 years ago. And it was a tough event, but not very many girls team roped. And so I headed and I got to team rope, and it was the World Junior Open, and there would be kids come from all over. It was like one of the most prestigious events ever. And there would be, they had the event over 4 days, and there would literally be 2 to 300 teams a night at
Uh,
these ropings. We literally grew up at the World Junior. We say, Tyler Wade, he just and Wesley Thorpe, they're your NFR World Champion team ropers. They were two of the boys. I actually won it with one time with Wesley Thorpe. He was my healer at one point. Tyler Wade roped with me too. So we kind of all grew up together. So it was cool to see those guys come away with the gold buckle this year. But yeah, it was a place where as kids we went and we team roped, and so it was, I was out there with the boys, and I always remember when I showed up there, I didn't feel like I roped very good or competed very good because the boys were kicking my butt. And then every day it felt like I stepped up and got better. And so that was actually a 5 head aggregate roping. So it was over, you had to rope 5 cattle, and it was the fastest time on those 5 cattle. And so it was a pretty cool accomplishment. I think I was 13 years old that year, and to know I roped against another, I think there was 100 teams entered, and they were all boys that have been to the NFR, have won world championships and all those things. At that time, we obviously didn't know, but they roped really good. And so I think, my parents helped me tremendously there and supported me and providing me with horses, and we practiced several times. They hauled me all around the world and gave me those opportunities, and I just loved to compete. I hated to lose, and I dang sure didn't want to get beat by a boy. And so yeah, that's kind of just where it started. But I had an amazing support system. Like I said, my family took me everywhere, and they exposed me to situations like that and gave me those chances to succeed there.
Do you remember the very first time you tried roping? Did you take to it right away, or is it something that took a little while to really get into the groove?
Oh gosh, I don't remember the first time, but sometimes I go outside and I still feel like, man, have I ever roped before? Have I done this? It's one of the most humbling sports you have ever done in your life. You can be on cloud nine one day and the next day be below the bucket. I mean, it's just, you're usually competing on an animal with a horse and then yourself and all those things combined. It's been something I've really had to work at a lot. I don't have a lot of natural, ability. I'm not that coordinated. I'm not that athletic, so I've had to work really hard to train my body, train my mind, train my emotions to do all of those things. And, it like my younger sister, Riley, it just seemed like it all came natural to her, and I was always so mad at her. I'm like, "Why is this so easy for you? I worked so hard at this, and you're better than me." And so, it hasn't ever come really easy to me. It's something I've always really worked out a lot, but, I think that that's really put me in places that I am today because 'cause I've gotten defeated a lot, and I've learned how to lose a lot, and I think that when you can persevere through that, then that helps you to, get to where you wanna go.
Well, the mental aspect of that, when you're talking about that, I'm thinking like a field goal kicker. I mean, you could go all the way from high school into college into the pros and be so, just such a prolific kicker. And one day, just something goes awry, and then all of a sudden, the wheels kind of come off the wagon. And I imagine it's the same kind of deal. Once that confidence gets a little bit shook, it's kind of hard to rein that back in, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times there's maybe things that maybe just didn't go our way, or some of the things I've learned, like obviously we can't control everything, which I know as a woman I want to control almost all of things. So,
No.
but it's a lot of the things maybe we can't control, or just didn't work for us that day. And instead of just letting that go and letting that be that day and moving forward, I think we carry a lot of that stuff in and create a lot of the problems, honestly, that we see a lot in rodeo. And it is such a deal. Trevor Brazil, I think he's a 26-time world champion. He said one time, confidence is the hardest thing to get and the easiest thing to lose. And I think that that stuck with me because it is. It's so hard to get there, and then it can just be gone in a second. But I think we do a lot of that to ourselves, and maybe really nothing was broken. It just wasn't our time, or things weren't going right, or there's so many different options and variables. But sometimes I think we get in our own way, or at least I know that I do. And so I think the older you get, the more you think you've learned, or at least you try to, and then to keep applying that every day, day in and day out.
Right. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but now would be a great time to throw in a plug for the In the Loop podcast here, because these are the kind of insights you get week in and week out on the show here. Jordan Joe does just an amazing job with talking with some of the really the stars of the sport here and picking their brains about a lot of this stuff, and they get really deep into it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on here, and I hope you'll stick around for that discussion. Thank you to everybody who's watching right now. We really appreciate it, whether you're watching it live or you're catching it here on the replay. We appreciate you, and hope you'll stick around and come back. Jordan Joe, in 2019, he became the first ever breakaway roping champion at the legendary Cheyenne Frontier Days. Followed that up the next year as the National Finals breakaway roping average champion. The first year for the event. Also in 2020, placed in second out of 10 rounds to finish third in the world standings. You really had to feel like you're on quite a roll there, huh?
Yeah, those few years were amazing. I remember driving up to Cheyenne. I had absolutely no money in my pocket, and my husband was like, because they only took 200 girls that year at Cheyenne. It was the first year they ever had it, one of the biggest rodeos on the platform to give us a chance at the pro rodeos. The WCRA and the American had just added breakaway roping prior to that, and so it was a huge roller coaster. And I had no money, and I had gotten in, the entries opened, and I think they were full within 8 minutes. 200 ladies of the best ladies in the world that are roping. And I was like, I don't want to go. I don't have any money. I'm not roping good, just having this big pity party. And he's like, well, you're going. I'm like, okay. And so I really had no expectations when I got there. My husband had won it before in the tie down. And so I probably had a little bit of good luck on my side carrying his buckle in there with me. I roped in his buckle the whole time. I still do most of the time anyway. I usually don't wear mine, but you know what? It went my way. It's one of the toughest rodeos ever in the world, and it's one of the coolest accomplishments that I think I have to my name. But it's hard, and the start is hard. It's a 20-foot barrier. You're roping calves that run really hard, and there's just no telling what's going to happen. They call it the daddy of them all, and so to get that win, it really set me up and gave me a lot of confidence that, hey, I can compete with these girls, and I maybe do know what I'm doing, or I don't know, you know what you're doing, but just gives you some confidence to get a win like that up against the best in the world. And then I had some really good horses that I was able to ride then and help me along. And that next year came along and made the NFBR. I won't ever forget walking into Globe Life Field. Man, it was breathtaking to be at the National Finals Rodeo and the breakaway opening. It was the inaugural year. So many people worked so hard to get us there, and we were, given that platform by the PRCA, the WPRA. And so getting to actually do that was, I always, when I was little, I wanted to be the first girl to make it to the NFR and the team roping. And I just think that that might not ever happen because that's so tough. But then now we have this chance in the breakaway. And so that was a dream come true for me, just to walk in there and to compete. I had set a pretty big goal for myself. I wanted to catch all 12 calves. It was a 12 head format that year, and I did, and came short, I think, by like 2/10 of a second, winning the whole thing. And so, but man, it was just an amazing time. And just to have the opportunities, and then it's just blown up and gotten bigger after that. It's pretty cool. And I'm blessed to get to be a part of it. I love what I do.
So for our non-rodeo crowd who might be watching here, I want to show a clip, a little bit about what Jordan Joe does, so you can get a feel for it.
Association is excited to compete on the track here at Salinas. You got a time there, a good one.
Good one, absolutely a good one. 4 seconds flat for Jordan Joe. That's how you do it right there. That's how it's done.
And that's how you do it right there. Just that easy, right?
That's an iconic rodeo too. Salinas, we usually come out of the other side of the box. And so you come out of the wrong side is what we're accommodated to. But they rope fresh calves there, and that's another prestigious rodeo that's so cool. And it just I'm getting, butterflies right now and I'm not even there. And so it's really been a blessing to get to compete, to travel the world at these events, to be given the opportunity to have a career as a breakaway roper, as a professional rodeo athlete, as a woman. I think that's something we've fought for a long time, and it's pretty neat that it's here. It's a dream come true.
Well, it takes something special to be a world-class athlete. What is it that sets you apart from others in your sport? And just talk a bit about how hard you drive yourself to maintain that level of commitment.
I think I'm just really hard-headed. No, that and I just have a pursuit of excellence. Like, I just wanna be involved in anything and everything that I can, and I wanna do it the best. And I sometimes get a little too overcommitted in all the things that I get going on. I have a lot of squirrels running all the time. But for me, that's kinda how I was raised as far as, like, if you want something, you figure it out. And, that's the choice we were given. And so I think that's just kinda how I've went forward and done it. And, I've been very thankful. There's been so many people alongside of me that have helped me get here. I would not be here by myself at all. My husband has been a huge influence in my career and everything I do. But there's been so many people along the way that have come and helped me and that are still beside me and all the things. And I think that as I, like, reflect on you asking me that question, I'm like, it is hard, and you do have to make a choice, but you've got to make a choice in life. Life's going to choose you or you're going to choose life. And so um I think that for me it's just having that desire to do something and do it with excellence and not settle for less. And I've been blessed with a mighty God, and honestly, the people that have come alongside me, the ones that have stuck around or even have been apart and maybe those doors have closed, they've always inspired me and encouraged me to be a better person, be a better me, and step up, and I appreciate that.
Well, you have a lot of irons in the fire, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But as you do that, walk us through what your practice schedule looks like. How often do you practice, and what does that look like?
The first 2 weeks of December, I guess, I actually, like, made myself take off because that we don't really have a downtime anymore. There's opportunities and ropings and rodeo events year round, it seems like. So I did take 2 weeks off, but a normal day, we're grinding from the 1st of January till the end of December. And when I'm at home, I am trying to get outside, be around my horses, be around a rope, do some mechanical things, maybe run some in the practice pen, just kinda whatever applies that day. I try to do a physical workout most every day, a mental workout most every day, and be around what I do. I don't always get that done. I'm not perfect, even though I really try hard, but, just trying to be around it and learn more about it each and every day is what I try to do. I also have a business that I run, and so I try to get up really early and do my business and run my podcast, and then as soon as I can after lunch, I shut my computer lid and I head outside. So, trying just to make that time and kinda, make wear all the hats and shuffle all the things. And like I said earlier, there's so many people that help me get that done. But, and then, like, from June till September, we're pretty much on the road and in the truck for 4 months, which kinda stinks. It's a big challenge. I mean, you're literally driving every day for 5 hours a day or more. But we're getting to see places, compete, rope, do what we've prepared for all year long and execute that. So that's really fun. And then we come home and regroup in September, October, November, December's kinda hopefully you're gearing up and getting ready for the NFR or the NFBR and practicing and hitting some jackpots, and then you head out to Vegas, and then it starts all over again. So I think Jeff Metters and Butch Knowles last night at the NFR said, well, you went from first place today, and tomorrow you're going to be tied for last. And so it starts over a vicious cycle, and it's fast and furious, but I guess that's why we love it.
Well, I would like to think that is tied for first until somebody knocks you out of it.
Yeah, that's a good perspective.
So, as you mentioned, you've got a set of skills that's kind of uniquely qualified you to represent your sport. You got a background in marketing and experience in broadcasting, which makes you attractive to sponsors, I would think. Has that always been the method to the madness as you were growing your career?
So my mom, when I was 18 years old, she said that she needed a website. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to do that. I'll figure it out. And so that's kind of where I got started. She was a home builder and still is to this day. And so I kind of figured it out. And then I was like, hey, I like this. I'm going to go to school for this. A lot of the things along the way, I have had no idea what I'm doing. And I've just figured it out by trial and error and making a lot of mistakes. One thing I've always loved to do though, I love to talk, as you can tell, and I love to tell stories. And I remember I had a 5th grade teacher that made us, or we had a project one year that we had to read a book and then we had to give a presentation as that author in front of the class. And so I did mine on Harry Potter, which was very popular at that time. And I wanted to be J.K. Rowling, and so I will never forget for 2 months, I would go to the basement, shut the door, and I would pretend like I was J.K. Rowling, and I would talk like I was from England, and I would tell the group what I was going to say. And, so that I remember I did that whole presentation for 30 minutes talking like an English woman as I was J.K. Rowling, and I thought that was so much fun. And so, after we made the NFR in 2020, I traveled some of the world and seen some of these different places. I was like, man, there's so many amazing stories of these men and women that we rodeo with that nobody is talking about. And I was like, so if I can tell these stories, I want to do it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to pray about it. So I'm like, well, if Apple accepts my podcast, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm thinking in my head, no way this is going to happen. And so, like, I submit my stuff, and the next day they're like, "Here's your Apple ID and here's your podcast ID." And I'm like, "Oh, crap." So, here we go. And I sat in the truck. Martha Angeloni was a 2021 or no, 2022 World's Champion breakaway roper. And, we sat in the front of my Dodge pickup, and I had my iPhone, and I literally would say something, and then I would put it to her, and I would say something, and that was my first podcast episode. And, I had, again, no idea what I was doing, and so that's kind of evolved, and it's been an overwhelming blessing. Like, it's increased 100% every year. We just finished our 15 days of breakaway, and, we had over 50,000 people listen to the episode, and so it's been a blessing. And, one of the hardest things I've ever had in my life is I didn't make the NFR the last 3 years. So I made it the very first year, and then I didn't qualify the second year. I think I ended up 16th. And then I've been in the top 20 the next 2 years to follow. And so for me, that was, like, devastating because that's what I've dreamed of, that's what I've worked for, and it didn't happen. But now that I see it's kinda come full circle, it's been a huge blessing because I actually have had the opportunity to go out to Vegas and be the broadcaster for the NFBR Breakaway, which was a challenge to do, but it has motivated me more than you will ever know to work harder. But I've gotten to talk, to these girls and give them a better platform, I think, of maybe asking questions that, because I've been there and I know what they're thinking and I know what's going on, so maybe to share their insight and professionalism better with the world. So that's been super fun, and I think that that's helped me more than anything to grow as a professional outside of the arena. And so, the last few years I've been a broadcaster and I've learned a lot, and I've learned what not to say on camera and what to say on camera, and so it's been a journey and it's been super fun. And um I don't know, I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Well, tell us about the preparations that go into that because you don't just show up the day of and get on camera and start talking. There's a lot that goes into that. So you make sure that you sound intelligent, ask the right questions, and can fill the time.
Well, I'm pretty blessed because right before the NFBR starts, I do the 15 days of breakaway. So I get to interview the top 15, all the breakaway ropers. We do 15 straight days of it from number 1 to number 15. And so I get an hour one-on-one time with these girls and get to do a podcast episode. So I feel like I have a little bit, I'm cheating a little bit because I know some of the inside things that have happened throughout their year. But also, I was competing myself alongside of those girls all year long, and so I was there at all the events, and I saw the goods, the ups, the downs, the bads, everything in between. And so it's been encouraging to me to talk more about the things that are challenges as competitors and as women, instead of it always being bright and shiny. And I have just loved to see these girls step up and be vulnerable and talk about it, because I think that at the end of the day, we all put our pants on the same way, right? Like, I might jump up and down a little bit more than you do because mine are probably a little tighter, but at the end of the day, we're human and we go through struggles and mountains and valleys. And so it's been neat to see. But yeah, I get to prepare because I've had this podcast episode with them. So as I do that, I take notes and kind of asterisk what I want to ask these girls. This year was a hard year for me though because Danielle Lohman won 3 straight rounds in a row.
Mm.
And I was like, "What?" I have run out of questions to ask her. Like, what am I going to ask her? But she was super great, and to have her on there, her energy was so high. But she is just an advocate for the sport of breakaway and promoting breakaway, and she brings an energy to the event that not very many girls do. And so it wasn't hard to talk to her. But yeah, I try to bring forward. I know each of them personally behind the scenes too, and so if they allow me, which some of them are like, "Don't talk about any of that stuff. Just don't make me cry and don't make me look stupid." I'm like, "Okay." So, but the ones who will, I try to share a little bit of their backstory because there's always a backstory that goes into what you're seeing as a competitor in and out of the arena, and so I just try to share a little bit of that with everybody.
Well, as I always tell people, I'm trying harder to make myself not look stupid than I am you. So if anybody, I don't
I know
usually
it's
do.
pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to make yourself look dumb, and I think I've found them all a time or two, so
Yeah, me
I
too.
totally get
Me
that,
too.
and full transparency, as we get closer to Christmas, I'm doing a whole lot more jumping up and down to get my pants on too, so, yeah, you're in
Aren't
good
we all? We're
you're
gonna
in good
start January 1st.
I'm down with that. Hey, I gotta show everybody a little video here just to let you know what she goes through here as, she gets this podcast together. 'Cause she's juggling a lot of balls right now and doing a fabulous job here. Take a look. The World Nerve Center for the In the Loop podcast right there.
I think you left the best part out, which was I was wearing my Crocs, and I got
Yeah,
the most flack for that. Like, everybody was commenting on my Crocs, and I'm like, "All the other stuff that's going on there, and you're commenting on my Crocs?"
I struggled with that. I really did wanna get them in there, but I was in a hurry, so that's what you got. Step back later if you but we can show you a
Yeah, go
screen.
check me out on social media. You'll be able to comment on my Crocs as well.
Absolutely. See, that's how we pull people through here, we gotta just give them a little tease here, and you gotta go to her, socials and get the rest of it here, so
Yeah.
go check
No,
that
it's
out.
you know what? To think that I started my first episode podcasting in a truck, and then, for a few years, I lived in a fifth wheel RV. And now I've moved into a home and I have an office that is all cardboard walls. People are like, "Is that your tack room? Is that where you put your saddles?" And I'm like, "No, but it's a good idea." Um, Man, I'm just blessed and fortunate, just to get to do this, and I just wanted to show everybody, I think that there's always a method behind the madness, but there's so much going on that I think people don't even realize that all the things you do to make this all happen. So, somebody asked me, "How do you really do that?" And I'm like, "You don't wanna know." And so that's why I wanted to show that just to I'm not perfect by any means, and we got lots going on, and we make it happen when we can, and, that's just part of rodeo.
Well, I tell you what really matters is the finished product and the sound that comes out of it. And I think everybody is going to be very pleased and very surprised when they go check this podcast out because the quality of it is first rate and the guests are first rate and the interviewing is first rate. Very fascinating
Thank you.
conversations, very transparent conversations. And, they pull the listener through and really keep the interest.
Well, I appreciate it. That's one of the things at first I was like, "Oh crap." I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't really have the confidence or the courage to do it. And so I did one episode and it was a pretty vulnerable episode, pretty authentic with another lady that was a very bold lady to talk about some of that stuff. And I got so much feedback like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not the only one." And I go through that same things too and all of those things. And so I was like, "Okay, okay, God, give me the courage to talk a little bit more about the real life things." And so that's really what I strive to do is bring these stories to the forefront and be honest. And as much as my guests will talk about the honesty and the raw and the real of life, I try to bring that to the forefront because I think as I've grown up and as I've matured and gone through the stages and seasons of life, those people who have been truthful have helped me more than anything to get through some of those stages. And so that's my goal at the end of the day. Like, I hope that these episodes live on and give somebody maybe some area of help or make a difference in somebody's life. for years to come. And I just want to, that's my, you always hear, what do you want on your epitaph and all those things. And I just want to know that people know that I loved them and that I made a difference to the world. So that's my goal.
Absolutely. Well, you're off to a good start on it. What else do you have on the horizon that you want to tackle that you have yet to do?
So we're working, I have an amazing team put together, and we are working on growing this podcast because I love this podcast. I love talking about it, and I want to grow in more than just the podcast. I want to talk all things ag. I want to share our world with the world, because the state that our country is in right now is something that honestly, it scares me. And so, but I see there's so many good things that I see going on in rodeo, in ag, in the Western lifestyle, and I just want to try to share that with the world. So I'm gonna try, and I have an amazing team alongside of me. We're gonna try to grow this podcast. We're gonna try to get out there. We're gonna try to get in the ag world and share all things ag. You and I are gonna team up a little bit. So I'm excited about that. And I'm gonna rodeo again this year professionally, and very excited about that too. Every time you get the chance to do that, that's not going to be something I get to do forever, and I feel that I have been given a lot of opportunities there, and so I'm gonna pursue that the best that I can. And my husband and I, we built a new home, and we've been blessed to kind of move down to a town called Springtown, Texas. And so he's building out his program. He's training calf roping horses and roping horses and all those things. And so we get to spend a lot of quality time together, and I'm excited about that next chapter and season in our life. We coached at West Texas A&M. We were rodeo coaches for 10 years. And so I'm excited. It was an awesome opportunity to be a coach and to get to share that with these kids. And I'm excited to grow my business as a professional, as those podcasts, and just keep doing what I love and go into a different season. So there's lots of exciting things to come.
So let folks know, where can they find the podcast?
You can go to my website, jordanjoe.co, and you can find all things breakaway roping, podcasting. I have my marketing business info on there. We do a blog series every week. So if you're not a podcaster, you can listen to it. Or if you don't want to listen to it, you can read it, because I'm a reader. I like to print. And you and I were talking earlier. We print, we write, and we do all the things. So yeah, jordanjoe.co. You can find me on all social media channels, jordanjoe.hollabaugh on Instagram, Jordan Joe Hollabaugh on Facebook. We try to be present and available to you. And I guess I would just say to anybody, I try to answer everybody I possibly can. If you have any questions, I am human and I will respond to you. I'm not that important that I can't return your comments and or responses, direct messages, anything like that. So I would love to invite you into our world and share with you what we've got going on. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Absolutely. You also be able to find episodes of In the Loop on Rural Strong Radio, which is our 24/7 streaming radio station beginning after the first of the year. We'll tell you about all that here in just a minute. But this is partly going out to a music crowd. We do our Fort Worth Musical Moments show, as well as everything that connects agriculture and the country music world together. You much of a music person?
I am, in college, I think my main form of working out was doing the two-step, which that's not very, you don't see that very often anymore. People are like, "What is the two-step?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." But
Still
yeah,
alive and well in Texas, but outside of there, not so much.
yeah. So Texas country kinda has my heart, just because I came to school down here, and that's what we did. And in college, we danced a lot and had a lot of fun. And so Texas country, but I've also a big Christian listener as well, Christian country, all things country really. But, I try to keep a positive atmosphere and a good vibe going on at all times, and music does that for a person. If you're having a bad day and you turn some good music on, it does that. So I'm always fortunate to have that. But we live about 45 minutes from the Fort Worth Stockyards, and every time you go down there, there's always a good country band playing, and it's pretty refreshing, and it's a great time.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have to get you into National Hall with us as we do some shows there in the year of 2024 coming up here in a couple of weeks here. We've got a lot going on down there in the Fort Worth area. Shout out to everybody listening from Fort Worth and surrounding areas today. We love you guys, and thank you so much for watching here. Is music part of your pre-event ritual? Do you throw in the earbuds and get jacked up with a little music?
I don't. I have so many squirrels going on, I really gotta try to tone it down. If I listen to music, there's no telling. I might just be running wild. But, we at the productions and at these rodeo events anymore, we have some great music directors, so they get you pretty pumped up within itself, and there's always some good music playing in the background or when you're fixing to back in the box and compete, and so that makes it pretty fun. But no, I have to stay low because I'm already pretty keyed up. My husband calls me high strung, so, yeah, if I did that, there's no telling what would happen.
I asked that question of Clayton Sellers, one of your
Yep.
agtrucktrader.com pro rodeo teammates here a few weeks ago, and he was telling me he has a pre-ride playlist that includes Danzig and Red Hot Chili Peppers. So he gets a little jacked up for his.
Yeah, he needs to though. I mean, he gets on like, 1,000-pound animal and tries to stay on for 8 seconds, and so, I mean,
You got
yeah,
a little more
he
finesse to yours.
yeah, I try to be a little softer in my discipline, but it's been so much fun with Ag Truck Trader to get to learn more about each and every one of these sports, and I have no idea about bull riding, but just because I've talked to Clayton, I feel like I do now, so, it's really fun to be in somebody else's corner, though. I think that's pretty refreshing as a rodeo athlete. It's an individual sport, most people know. There's some team sports coming out, but to be on Ag Truck Trader's rodeo team, Leighton Berry just came off of his NFR and he had a great time. But one of the things I loved was, we were sending out group texts and team texts, congratulating him, letting him know how good he'd done. And to be able to have that support and support somebody else in a different event, it's pretty neat. And I'm thankful to be a part of that too.
Yeah, big shout out to Pat Driscoll and Lyle Orwig and Jenny Wallace and the whole team there at Ag Truck Trader, doing some great things there. If you want to learn more about that, go back to the past couple of episodes of our Tractors and Troubadours podcast, which you can find at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So we have a nice conversation with Jordan Joe, also with the aforementioned Clayton Sellers, as well as Pat Driscoll, who talks a lot about what's going to be transpiring for 2024 with that whole program, which is just taking off like gangbusters. So you're going to want to go and listen to that. We'll have those guys on a show here coming up in the coming weeks as we approach National Ag Day, which is coming up March the 24th. They've got some big plans there for that. So we'll get into that more here after we flip the calendar here. But again, one more time, where to find the podcast?
jordanjoe.co, and you can find the In the Loop podcast, and we are going to bring you some great content as well as on this program too, Real Strong. I'm very excited and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I can't wait to see what we get done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. We appreciate it. And well, it really got my juices flowing when we started talking about the possibilities here and started talking about the kind of the cross promotion of rodeo and ag. And then you throw country music in there and some of the influences there. I mean, this has the opportunity to be really, really big. So excited to be a part of whatever we can hatch here along the way.
Well, thank you for all that you do. I know that you have so many irons in the fire and you got lots of fires burning. And so I know that it's a thankless job, but I appreciate you for taking the time and giving us something to look forward to every week.
We're just trying to not let them become dumpster fires. I mean, that's the big big thing here. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that here. And along those lines, we hope everybody will subscribe to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. And again, that can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms here. Episode 110 is out right now. That just dropped on Friday. Episode 111. We're trying to get out here by Wednesday here. That's your Christmas episode. We set the ag aside for a week and just focus on the troubadours. We've got Christmas music from some really, really great artists and some really inspirational stuff on there. You're going to want to listen to that. So again, ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio. It's our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. There we bring you our agriculture programming as well as the best in traditional country music mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, inspirational music, and now featuring your country Christmas favorites here through the holiday season. So make sure you go give that a listen. Again, ruralstrongmedia.com and the Live 365 streaming radio app. Having a lot of fun with that. And as Jordan Joe mentioned, some of the inspirational country music. Make sure you join us at 9 a.m. each Sunday morning, Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, as my friend Robbie Lynn comes in and plays nearly 3 hours of great inspirational country music. You'll get it from the legends in country music, as well as some independent artists you're not as familiar with, but you're going to fall in love with them. Then I come in with an inspirational short set about 11:45 a.m. Central. That leads us to the top of that hour, noon Central, when our friend Billy Bowles out of Lubbock, Texas, comes in and plays 2 hours of great traditional country and Western swing music. So it's one of our favorite days of the week around there on Sundays. Great way to renew your soul, get reset for a new week, and just have a little fun. So I hope you join us for all of that. Programming note before we get out of here, a couple of them. Fort Worth Musical Moments this Friday, 10 a.m. Central. Steve Marquardt and I are going to get everybody together for some holiday cheer. Who knows where that discussion is going to lead? His brother Mike Marquardt's going to come in and recite the Cowboys Christmas poem, which is I heard turned some heads at an event there in Texas a couple days ago. So who knows who else will bring on that show? But we're going to have some fun here as we wrap it up. If you didn't get a chance, go back. The show we have archived last week is my interview with the amazing actor Barry Corbin. Was in so many great Western movies and so many other great cinematic gems over the years. He and I sat down for an hour-long interview. We shared that last Friday. That's archived. You can find that at the Real Strong Media Facebook page or the YouTube channel. We'll have our live show this week. Then next week, we're going to be off. I'm going to be traveling. Steve's got some stuff going. So another interview we did recently at the Fort Worth National Hall there for the Cowtown Birthplace of Western Swing. We brought in Junior Brown, who is a member of the documentary Birth and History of Western Swing. The king of the Get Steel, man, what a great alt country act he is. So we're gonna have Junior on there. He wasn't feeling too good that day, but we still cranked out a pretty good episode there. So I'm excited for everybody to see that. Again, Fort Worth Musical Moments will be this Friday, 10 a.m. Central. Then the Junior Brown will be the following week. Also, before we get out of here, Honky Tonk star Scott Southworth, that's a mouthful, is going to join me on Rural Strong Live here tomorrow. That's going to be 7 Eastern, 6 Central. He's got a new Christmas song out, Wooden Sheriff's Gun. Really poignant song, kind of taking you back to the late 1800s at Christmas time. And it has to do with the sheriff and a chase of a fugitive and a young boy. And it's got all the stuff in it. So make sure you go check that out. I love Scott, man. Great, one of the great torchbearers for true honky tonk music. Good friend, and I can't wait to catch up with him. And then 2 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, my buddy Joey Cablin is going to be joining us from his home in Oklahoma to discuss auto steering systems for your farm equipment. He's got a new partnership that we're going to talk about. He's been at it for a while, helping your tractor drive itself so you can do some other stuff and maximize your maybe you could do a podcast, maybe. I don't know.
You can have all your time.
You can build websites, do what you do. But make sure you check out Joey and I, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central this Wednesday. And, you can check that out. Rural Strong Media Facebook page, our X account, our LinkedIn, and also the YouTube channel. A lot going on here. You think we try to scale it back a little bit here as we get close to Christmas, but instead we're trying to cram in more as we get to the end of the year. But I hope you join us. Thank you for everybody who joined us for all this stuff here throughout this whole year. You've been a real blessing to us. We just continue to grow this thing, and we do it because we're passionate about it. We're passionate about ag. We're passionate about rodeo. We're passionate about the Western lifestyle. We're passionate about the good old US of A. You tie it all together, and that's what we come up with here. So, Jordan Joe, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Can't wait to showcase your talents here on the platforms in 2024.
Thanks, Brent. It's been awesome to talk to you, and I can't wait to see what we've got down the pike.
So have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you later, and Merry Christmas and a happy day to you guys. I hope you come back with me tomorrow. I don't want to sign off for the week just yet here because we got a lot going on. So come back again tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, if I can get that right. Scott Southworth. Until then, for Jordan Joe, it's Brent Adams. Make it a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.